welcome to the Abnormal, Strange, and Weird podcast, a show dedicated to all such things and everything in between. Now sit back and relax and join us as we talk about weird shit. Hello, good morning, hear ye. I'm going to do all of them, all my favorite. What was my other one? Good morning, good night, hello, how are you? Well, anyways, welcome to the Abnormal, Strange, and Weird podcast. This is episode 14.
Everything's different.
Everything is different. Sorry we took, 2 weeks off? We both had...
A month?
I think it was only 2 weeks.
4 weeks.
No way.
No?
I don't think so.
Since the last video?
No.
I thought it was for sure 4 weeks.
It was 3 tops. But anyways, I don't know. We both had shit to do. Sorry.
Yes. 3 weeks.
Maybe 3 weeks. Yeah, so how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
Nice new digs.
Yeah, I'm good too. Everything's good.
Good.
Sort of. I let out a burp. Little baby burp.
Little squeaker. Let it.
They'll get worse as the show goes on.
There's them dad beers.
Yeah, that's all I like. I used to be fancy and partake in all the flavorful beers. But a lot of them they're like 10%. You drink 4 of them and it's like...
Oh, you're done.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to drink 12 beers for hours.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely more social.
Yes.
Beers.
And I never thought I would, but whatever.
What?
Drink dad beers.
Oh.
It was just whiskey and like IPAs for 10 years when I was younger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Yeah, so, yeah, we didn't know what to talk about. We went back and forth about a bunch of stuff. And we've brought it up on here many times about parallel universe or dimensions and what the possibilities could be or our own little theories. And we kind of stumbled down some roads. Thought we'd talk about that a little bit and see where we end up, huh?
Yeah, and I love how everything we've been talking about keeps lining up.
It really kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because it was Tesla last.
Mm-hmm.
It was like he came after the prophet. Oh, here I am.
There you are.
The prophet Edgar Casey. Case.
Casey. No, it's Casey.
It's Case. I've heard it both.
Really?
It's Casey.
I think
Edgar
I'm right.
Casey. Dang it. I've just been saying it wrong.
I'm good at pronunciating stuff, so...
So did you read about Antarctica, what's happening down there? Like
No.
neutrinos and shit?
Oh, yeah, actually, now that you bring it up, how they're, like, doing the opposite of what they should be doing.
Yes.
Instead of going into Antarctica, they're going up.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're like... Since they fall, like, so neutrinos are a ghost particle. It's not even a particle. It's like the absence. It doesn't interact with matter. So it's not behaving as it should. And it seems like it's coming from the ice there.
No, you're good to go. Don't worry about it.
There's like this balloon type project that
There
they're
you go.
doing. You can't point it down.
No. Look
Sorry.
that sucker down.
That looked inappropriate.
It was good for the viewers. They'll like it.
Yeah.
So they're going up rather than down, right? Instead of falling.
They thought they'd be measuring space neutrinos, like the stuff that comes off of supernovas in the sun. And yeah, it's definitely not behaving in the right way. And that's what NASA is talking about parallel universes for.
You think that's what that's kind of what their theory is at this point?
Yeah, that's what they think this proves it. And I'm not sure the nuts and bolts of that one because I kind of wormholed elsewhere.
Sure.
But
yeah.
it was where I started my wormhole.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way. I mean, that would make sense. There's like a wormhole or
It's
gateway,
almost
I
like
don't know.
they're falling in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, they're going up rather than down, so they're not falling, right?
Right. But they don't
So,
interact with matter. So it's like whatever's up and down for us doesn't make sense for a neutrino. Ghost particle.
No. Yeah, I want to read more about that. I wish I actually did now that you bring it up.
Oh, let me see. I took notes on it. So Anita is the balloon-based particle detector. It studies neutrinos or ghost particles measuring subatomic particles from the sun or supernovas and quasars. Neutrinos are fairly detectable. Barely, I think. I do voice to text a lot. They don't interact with matter, but it's available for measurement in the ice there. But that's what they're saying. They're going in the wrong
So,
direction.
well, they're probably too small that they probably couldn't get trapped in the ice, huh?
Well, they don't interact with matter.
Yeah.
They move through everything as if it doesn't exist.
Melting ice wouldn't explain it. So,
Right.
no, that's a sound theory because if that's where the universe is starting or ours is ending, maybe theirs is, it's going up. Yeah, interesting.
Well, and further in that line of thinking, I guess, comes this equal and opposite, but parallel in this sense.
Mm-hmm.
So time in this one, time's moving backwards, and this one, time goes forward. Layman's like I barely understand, but I don't know. I love thinking about this shit because neutrinos are like the negative waveform of a particle.
No,
Like
yeah.
the equal and opposite.
No, that's pretty cool.
And waveforms are like the radiant energy of a, or presence even, not energy, of an electron. But we all, like we have, here, let me dig into that too. Because what was his name? Sean Carroll has a book called Something Deeply Hidden, which is an Einstein quote. Because he, wasn't satisfied. He needed to know that shit. And his focus was in classical physics, classical mechanics.
Sure.
Physics, though, like that was what held it up. And then later came quantum physics.
Yeah.
The only two, the only two, factions of physics? The two
we're aware of at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only ones we're understanding. And quantum physics is much newer too, right?
I feel like I need to angle my chair this way.
There you go.
I mean, it's hard to talk about quantum physics.
Well, I mean,
you know you're getting it wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, even if we understood it in the most basic sense,
I
these
feel like
people
I got a
study
grasp.
it. Yeah. But these guys study like insane amounts of it for years. So they probably hear us talking and they're just laughing in our face.
Mm-hmm. I bet they're stoked we're talking about it though, because
No, they should be, right?
Yeah.
It gives them a job.
And I feel like I understand it more on the spiritual, in a spiritual way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've meditated and expanded beyond the parameters of my own body,
Totally.
into my waveform, it turns out, like that, and then expand to, like, all systems have a waveform essentially. And so this guy explained it, the guy who wrote that book, like radium, you put it in some sort of chamber and observe it, and every so often in its decay, which makes it radioactive, you'll see this little like streak of, say, the electron it sheds. When in fact the thing is like glowing with that activity, but you look at it and you see that one piece.
Sure.
Like as if, and I immediately associate that with like your perspective and your soul in this body.
Yeah.
As one piece of the waveform of our planet or solar system, or you can go as big as the whole universe has its own waveform.
Well, our universe.
Right, this one.
Yeah, as we see it.
And infinitely, in the most slightest of shifts, exists the other worlds of those different perspective, like called electron streaks. You know what I mean? And of the glowing bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, no, it makes you unique, definitely, because a lot of people don't go down those roads and are too scared to go down those roads. And then when they do, they get scared of what's happening and then don't do it again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What, did that happen to you?
Well, I don't know. It's just the weird shit when I was a kid. I seemed to have more control over that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're like, holy shit,
Yeah,
what the fuck's going on here?
And then you build up your armor.
Totally.
And
I got fucking military grade armor.
yeah.
It takes a while to get people inside mine.
Or yourself.
Yeah.
To even get out.
Well, even if I'm pretty good at seeing myself, but allowing it to be out there is a different story. That's why I always like music, or I like doing this stuff.
See,
Forces me to talk.
Some people are heinous, too.
Yeah. And they should hold that in. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. Ooh, it's 11:11. Weird.
4-1, does that mean something?
Hell yeah. It's a call to awakening. And here we are talking about parallel universes. Like expanding beyond. If you can fill, and based on quantum mechanics, you have the ability with your quantum computing brain, because we are quantum
beings, really.
Yeah. Just because we only recognize our classical physical self doesn't make our divine presence any different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible, I think. And Joe Rogan even will be like, let's not venture into the woo realm. I'm like, how do you not go there? How do you not look at these mathematical equations that because, I mean, so the Schrodinger equation, electrons and, what do they build?
Electrons.
Atoms.
Yeah.
Why is this word? Anyway. Shit. And I lost where I was going. No, these building blocks. I wonder if I can pull this out of my ass right now. Wait.
Well,
I have notes. What was I saying?
Well, they've talked about inside atoms are essentially can be considered a whole nother universe.
Oh yeah, I believe that too. I'm like the space. I've said it before. The space between electrons and protons and shit is as vast. Like the smaller you get.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So the bigger you get. And all those systems have their, like the electron has a waveform, but in an atom, that atom has a waveform, and those, like the separate parts no longer have a waveform. It depends on where you look.
Yeah.
So, and that's the big issue with quantum mechanics. They can't kind of rectify is this measurement problem, the measurement problem.
Mm-hmm.
The act of observing, whether it's a sentient being or a camera, measuring, changes it, and that it can shift, and in an unpredictable way. It depends on who's looking, what's looking.
Well, I guess on a quantum scale, there wouldn't be any deciphering between, like you said, a camera or a human or a cat, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Like we're looking at the same piece of radium, and we'll see two different streaks. I'll be like, "Did you see that?" You'd be like, "Yep," but you didn't see mine.
No, it's nuts.
Well,
it's interesting you brought up mathematics. One of the theories I came across is there's this guy. He's a physicist and cosmologist, Max Tegmark. Mm-hmm. He believes there's... Did you read about that guy?
I have a quote in my notes from that dude.
Well, he believes that there's a whole other entire universe that's just mathematical equations. And
right.
It's on a whole different law system, how our, law of physics and stuff. And it, it's governed by its own mathematical structure, and that it doesn't need us to be around, so it can be going on or die without us, and we would never even know.
Right.
And when I was reading that, I was like, well, fucking boring. It's just a bunch of numbers running around.
But imagine if you were a number.
Yeah.
I mean, but
So
that's
then
what
that
we
brings
are.
up a good question.
It's just translation.
So if you are a mathematical equation in this other universe, are you aware of yourself?
Or does the math equal skin and bones and teeth and eyes, you know? That's what I think. Like, depending on how it translates. Because I read about him, and he had these 4 levels, I guess. Shit. I was trying to see if I found it, but then the 4 levels of multiverse categorized by Max Techmark. Anyway.
Techmark.
Level 1, inflationary multiverse produced by eternal inflation. And that's like the Big Bang, everything's expanding once it starts.
Yeah.
But then we go into the bubble stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, level 2, more diverse inflationary multiverse produced by a chaotic model of eternal inflation, which almost feels like going from classical physics to quantum physics. And then what was level 3? Quantum multiverse or parallel universes. And then level 4, mathematical multiverse.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating too.
It
to
really
consider.
is. One that, what was it called? The eternal inflation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's pretty trippy to me, because that does bring up the bubble theory. How, when the Big Bang happened, and I've heard 2 different theories about the Big Bang that kind of go along with the bubble theory. But the one pertaining to this, how the way it expands in different inflations, there's different bubbles within our universe that could be a different universe. But the other one the one that I was really infatuated with, you ever seen that like documentary, What the Fuck Do We Know?
Oh yeah, what the bleep do we know?
Yeah.
Yep, that was the first thing. No, actually, my dad
This was
used
a
to
long
have
time
books.
ago. It was like early 2000s, right?
I thought it was 90s.
It
Well,
could be.
no, I think it was.
I mean,
2000s.
I think it was previous books and stuff, but the actual, I don't even.
That movie?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But their theory, I can't remember who came up with it, was, I don't even know what they called it. Almost like, I guess, in another universe that holds these different bubbles. And as they move around and sometimes interact, that causes big bangs in the bubble.
Oh.
Yeah, so they think that maybe when they hit each other, that's what caused our Big Bang with our different amounts of matter or whatever, and then made us. And another Big Bang to one of the other ones may not have been the same outcome,
Wow.
And if they're stuck together is when you can have black holes or wormholes and go in between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one always tripped me out.
I feel like they're all squished together. I like that bubble universe theory. Especially how, because I didn't hear about it like that. But, who knows?
That would make sense.
And
but then you're still part of another bigger thing that contains the bubbles. So what is that?
But then consider, though, quantum entanglement. 2 electrons pass each other in the cloud of electrons, building up whatever it's making. They're forever entangled. You could measure one and know exactly what the other's doing.
Totally.
In classical physics. I guess. I don't know. Is that more progressive than the classical?
Well, it might be. That might be newer theories. I don't know. I think a lot of this stuff people were thinking about, but didn't know how to get it in words, or... I mean, because some of the books I've read, old school, like, Copernicus, all these guys, they had similar theories, but they didn't know, like, the next level. So each time... That's why Einstein was so prolific, because there was that next level to study. And he took it to other levels, with his mathematics, and made it more understandable to the masses. But now, when's the last big mind? Was it Stephen Hawking, or is there any new ones that are really out there? Because I know there's plenty of people doing this, but there's not just like one out in the forefront. You kind of got Neil deGrasse Tyson, but he's more like, I like him because he's like this alpha male physicist, this big tough guy. He's like, oh, go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have any like
Elon's
prolific.
showing his ass too. I mean, Elon.
But I mean, do they have any like prolific theory that's changing things like Stephen Hawking did or Einstein?
Ooh, what happened?
Well, no.
Can you hear like my my like? Anyway, I wonder. Can you hear it?
But to my knowledge, there isn't one at the moment. Do you know anybody that's really out there?
I'd say Elon. We'll see
I mean,
what he
but he's
when
not really-
he's gonna get old.
I'm not saying a mind. I'm saying like a physicist. That's
Oh.
like
Graham Hancock. He's not a physicist, but I
but
think
that can actually sit there and take the mathematics and prove what they're theorizing. You know what I mean?
I guess it remains to be seen. And do we
Yeah.
ever know them until they're dead?
Well, I mean, with Einstein and Hawking, they definitely did.
Yeah, that's true.
There was one documentary I saw on Stephen Hawking. There was this other guy, I wish I could remember his name, who hated Stephen Hawking. And he was like, nope, all his theories are stupid. He sucks. I'm way better. And actually, he saw him at it was like a symposium or something, and hated Hawking so much he started to study physics to prove all his theories wrong.
Oh, shit.
And I guess he did pretty good on a couple of them, and where, to the point where Stephen Hawking actually went back and rewrote some of his books, or like parts of them.
Whoa, he like corrected him.
Yeah,
How fun.
isn't it?
Like
But-
Sheldon.
Who's Sheldon? Oh, from the Big Bang Theory?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen about 2 episodes of that show.
I watched it a lot. It was, I don't know.
I enjoyed it, but I just caught myself staring at what's her name?
Yeah.
Cuoco or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Yep.
I'd give her a little smooch.
Let me see. Because what was I? Oh, yeah. Graham Hancock.
Mm-hmm.
So there, he smoked DMT in the King's Chamber of at the pyramid, the Great Pyramid.
Mm.
Wow, I can't imagine, because just being in that thing is
Yeah.
supposed to attune you to like travel interdimensionally. I'll bet. Hook it up proper. Just get in
Yeah.
there and like meditate, see what happens. Anyway, but so somewhere, where in the UK? I feel like it's a little less. I mean, it's little more obscure of a place. They're mapping out the DMT realm. And I've always said once I tried that, once I first used it, and it's been 3 times, it was like peeking my head through into a different dimension, and the math worked out differently. Like I could have been looking at how a math equation would have, like ones and zeros make pictures on a fucking computer.
Yeah. Well,
You don't see
So
the ones
then-
and zeros. You
so
see
they're
the-
saying that, so if you did, see, the way I've always thought about it is if I did DMT and you did DMT, it's completely separate experiences or whatever, but by this theory, it's different experiences, but they're still connected somehow, and it's an actual realm. Interesting.
Well,
And they're able
consider
to
the
map it out.
radium particle. Like we would see 2 different things. We wouldn't visit the same DMT realm.
So how are
because
they
we all
mapping
have.
it out? So they have like maybe 100 people doing it
So
and describing everything, and then they're trying to
many
Connect
people
the
have the
dots.
same experiences.
Well,
Like
I
you
mean-
get blasted off. You've heard that term.
Oh yeah.
So that takes you out beyond the universe. You can see the universe as a whole. Everybody talks about that egg, the universal egg, or something similar.
So do they have like a controlled amount of people who have like certain things they're supposed to report on? Do you know?
There's like the realm of souls. I remember that. I was in a room where there was
Why?
all eyes on me.
Well, I'm talking more. How are they studying and mapping it?
Oh yeah, I think it's with people's experience.
So they have just like a certain amount, and then they were like, all right, So did you? How do they do that? They have a control and then see if other people see that.
It's probably with surveys, and I love that. Like, gather the data. I will volunteer my time.
Yeah.
You can go over and over again. Like, I went and met the same deities.
And so you were able to almost have not the same experience, but
I went and I was
visit the
greeted by the
same-
same presence.
but you were able to visit same or similar parts of it.
Mhm.
Interesting.
And it's probably, as vast as our universe.
Oh, we should have. I'll have to bring old Matty Boy on here
Yeah.
and see, because he's done it more than anyone I've known. My brother's done it a few times. Have you seen those DMT pens I got now?
Oh, yeah, I used one once.
Yeah, how was it? Was it similar?
It was legit.
Yeah.
Different. That's when I saw that realm of souls, actually, which was just all eyes on me and all these different shapes of, like, creatures. And so the first couple of times, it was geometric patterns, like pulsating and just so beautiful. And I was in awe of what I was seeing. And then it was then alive and turned into this dancing being. But I saw, like, when I blasted off, I saw that universal egg, only I said it looked like a freeway because of all this movement.
Sure.
And then, I mean, now looking back, it feels more like serpent energy. But I knew that what I was looking at was the all of things, in existence, in matter, in our realm.
Sure.
And then I got pulled, I don't know if it was in it or beyond it. I don't know where I was. I'm intrigued by what they're going to come up with.
Yeah, no kidding.
But then I met those Hindu deities.
I'd probably be more inclined to take it if it was studied and you kind of, I mean, I know it's studied otherwise, but if it was like kind of mapped out, mapped out and interesting. I
Yeah.
like the whole idea.
Me too. I can't
Well,
wait
and you
to
keep
see.
bringing up the spirit realm. That's one of the other theories I came across for alternate universe and dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought up, essentially after you pass away, that's where you end up. And the way,
Birthed into the other realm or another realm.
and so they consider that a whole nother universe or dimension.
Yeah.
And then they also said you stay there until you resolve the outstanding problems before joining the beyond. And so then it would be another realm after that.
Right. The other, if there's the parallel.
Yeah.
I like there's the hourglass shape with the bubble theory. Because there were several people who talked about the bubble theory, only explained it completely differently.
Yeah. Like the one I was explaining. And then the other one was kind of like these different bubbles within our universe, right?
Oh, and
Part of that expansion or whatever.
right. That's the one. Well, this one, it looks like an hourglass and it goes back and forth. And at the center, an event
It's
horizon
like this
potentially.
one photo I have. Sort of.
Only
so
not
where they meet
bent.
in the middle.
Right, only not bent.
Yeah.
And ever expanding, that infinite expansion or whatever. What was it? Yeah. So, but it's not infinite. It's a bubble. And every time it squeezes into the other side in this, like, breathing almost.
Wow. That's pretty trippy.
It's another Big Bang. But then I heard another one where they were talking about these bubble universes colliding and bruising each other, but that's where you end up with, like, the Mandela effect. Mandela effect or Mandela effect, because everybody thought he died in the 80s.
Yeah.
And all of those, it's crazy. But how easy that we could just slip into another dimension than we were on initially. Not another dimension, but like that particle line that you see coming off the
Sure.
radium as an individual consciousness living a life. Just blip, because that shit is unpredictable when you're trying to measure it in quantum physics.
It really is.
So
Or at least
big.
as far as we know it at this point.
Unpredictable shit. No, they said you can't measure in classical physics. You can predict You see the quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
You can always measure one and you get the same measurement. You always know what the
Same
other's
outcome,
doing.
yeah.
That sort of thing. It's tangible. It's real. It's like it fits the equation. Go quantum. I'm all wheezy. Go quantum, though. Observing these things like waveforms of electrons, it is absolutely unpredictable. And that's that problem, that measurement problem that they have come up against.
Wow.
That'll be the next major breakthrough.
Yeah, I think we're on the verge of some stuff.
If
Especially
they can
with
break through.
quantum computing and all that stuff. And they say they have some quantum computers going, but it's just so... I mean, just like when these computers, they're pretty massive when they first started.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of this shit's going to be probably pretty scary, the shit they find. Or at least for our feeble brains at the moment.
I know. Technological advancement has been growing at this exponential type curve because every time you get better with technology, you use better technology to make the new technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, but I don't think it's going to take technology. We have quantum computers in our heads.
Yeah.
It translates
kinda
light
forget about
waves.
that.
It
Yeah.
translates light waves, sound waves,
We've
and
had billions of
vibration.
years of evolution. It's going to be hard to compete with for a long time.
I don't think we got brains from evolution.
No?
No.
No. What's your theory?
I think I told you this before. I think we live in a realm.
Yeah. But how did the brain start?
We took form, And that's why, I don't know, all this stuff really reinforces my whole belief in, but in a weird way, of like Jesus in that fable that is, or the fable, but the presence. Like I take it serious, not just to say it's a fable. It's like you can meditate and reach that level, that Christ consciousness.
Sure.
You can access that life, and we represent almost in a heart, like the particle of the waveform. I feel like our waveform as humans is that of like the Christ consciousness experiencing itself. I believe that God, as people discuss it and pray to religiously, is that explained scientifically. It's something we all have access to, or we've been cut off from with trauma or whatnot. But that's the shit that people pray to, I think. That's where you find miracles and stuff aligning with, I don't know.
So what do you think our purest form is then? So do you think this is just part of the journey, or do you think...
I think our purest form is that universal waveform.
So how do we end up here? What do you think's
It's
before us?
condensed in our consciousness. Like
Yeah.
this is where I also think that the age of where we are in our, galaxy tells us too, like where in our levels of consciousness. That's why I think we came out of like the Iron Age, which was so very dense, and we were all very dense and physically focused, and as beings, being like even dinosaurs and shit, the creatures that lived and experienced this planet or this presence, this realm where we've come from, even if it was, but before them were the Atlanteans and shit that came from the golden age of consciousness and existence. And they were, cut in stone with their brains or with their meditative states.
Sure.
Telepathically, like doing shit. And
Well, I wonder, because if you think about that, so if there's these different ages when we hit those things, I wonder why there's the lull and then the back to it.
it's almost not a lull. It's like universal exploration.
I mean, but from the Atlanteans, there wasn't a prolific society to their extent for a long time, right? Do you think our society is to their level or not even close yet?
I think that by design, we've been kept out of the discussion for a while. I think people are raising up out of that though, just naturally. I think that we are going to be as puzzling, or we might not even leave a mark, because everything has been, made disposable. Our fucking fridges don't last a year. I mean, old shit lasted.
Well, they say we're on the verge of...
We're going to leave 0 records.
Well,
no pictures, no great monuments, except for heads carved into rocks. I mean, we got a few that we'll have left behind.
Well, I was watching a program on, what is that one called? In South Dakota, Jesus Christ.
Oh, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I guess it's like falling apart already. There's cracks in it, so that won't last either.
Right. This is good old American engineering. Just kidding.
But they say they're on the verge of talking of consciousness and all that good stuff.
Because it counts for a whole lot when you get down to that quantum mechanical or quantum level.
Well, they're saying they're on the verge of being able to essentially download our consciousness onto hard drives, and so there might be some hope left. So if there's some...
Elon saying that?
Oh, he's talked about it for sure. I think it's more... Well, he's probably in on it. He's already talking AI for running his... like actual AI robots for running... Keep in mind, this is the man that was warning us against AI within the last few years.
Yeah, I mean...
But so I'm saying there's still hope that, say, we can essentially have a library of our consciousness for the future. How you keep that stable and pass it on from generation to generation is another boundary, but...
Is it going to be consciousness, though? Like, do you stay then in that library somehow?
That's what they're saying.
Consciousness essentially is awareness.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like a big pill to swallow, but...
And then do you perceive yourself as locked up in this fucking library?
Maybe, or a hard drive or whatever it is.
Or what does that look like? Are you in the Matrix then? Can you pull out of it?
Well, there's probably somebody that'll pull out of it at some point, right?
Not if you have you don't have a physical being. You're just trapped then forever. Oh, have you seen WandaVision? That's what makes me think about it.
I haven't watched it yet, no.
It is so good. I was shocked.
Yeah.
It's so good. But the dude, like, Vision died. Thanos pinched his head. And fucking... She brought him back because he's like a super bot made from vibranium from Black Panther realm, Wakanda.
That's right.
Dang it. Just made me think because, like, she brought him back to life because she's the fucking Red Witch. I loved that. You should watch it.
Yeah, my dad told me to watch it. I got to get his code again.
Super good.
To steal his Disney Plus.
Ooh, I got it too.
But that's what they're saying is... Essentially, say you died 500 years ago, and they can basically bring you back, like completely,
so you
your entire brain.
In a metal body, or are they going to put you in a fucking dolly?
They might be able to download you into a
clone,
or whatever. Because now, like, cloning is not. I mean, you're not actually cloning the brain and all that stuff. You maybe the form. But say you clone a sheep, they're not going to have the same thought as the other sheep. It's still more of a, whatever you call it.
It's consciousness.
Yeah, it's still their own life or whatever. So they think they can clone you in the future with your old thoughts, and I don't know how I feel about it, but...
Yeah, it's weird to wrap your head around. But, like, when you die, I read this in a book.
Berenstain Bears?
No, this dude, he took people in between lives instead of into past lives with regression hypnosis. And he did so many cases, gathered all these stories that they would then, like, station a piece of their awareness with their loved one, but then move on and go with their soul group to learn about what they experienced, and then to, like, clear out old trauma and programming that's lingering, and then you move on into your next life. And, like, that cycle in and of itself tells me almost, that you couldn't keep your consciousness here. You move past this material realm, this matter, and that you can expand beyond that. It feels almost like maybe consciousness could exist like a neutrino, only it's anchored in our lives.
And then if we do mess with that, it could muck up the works, right?
I don't know, but I just what with what?
So if they did contain your consciousness when it was supposed to move on, could fuck shit up. Like a prison.
Right.
Well, I've often thought about, because
the Matrix style.
Well, you think about what we knew about death in the past, and, they buried people alive constantly because they were, in a,
Not fully dead.
coma or whatever. And so we still don't know everything. Imagine being buried and there's some part of your spine or whatever that's still completely aware and you're just trapped in that fucking box.
Remember that show I told you to watch about the near-death experiences?
Yeah, I watched some of it.
The lady was
horrifying.
trapped in the river in her kayak upside down with her legs breaking and her arms breaking and her ribs and her back and her neck just in the pounding water of this like waterfall.
Yeah.
And for 30 minutes, her ass was floating above herself. She saw her life jacket float down the way. When I went and saw my dad when he died, I felt as though he permeated the room.
Sure.
But that his perspective was from above. Like he was standing on the ceiling kind of looking down, or you know what I mean? Like, but he wasn't standing. He was his waveform outside of his body, but still kind of there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I don't feel like you could contain that.
No. Well, what I was saying is, I agree with all that for sure. But imagine what we don't understand about that. And there's still something. That's why I always believed in
something
cremation.
Deeply hidden.
Yeah, like some part of your brain or brain stem or something that's still alive well after you're gone. And not your consciousness outside where you can move about the universe, but like actually you're in your body just trapped until it's released. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Consider why they mummified Egyptians.
And I didn't understand that because actually I've been watching a ton of crap on Egyptians and just ancient all kinds of stuff. Helps me sleep. So if they wanted them to move on to the next realm, why the hell they take everything out of their bodies and put it in jars?
So, I think that's so they don't reincarnate because they need a new body. They still have their old one. It's still like they're anchored.
All right,
in,
well that explains
makes,
at the end.
That makes them immortal.
That makes actually sense.
Doesn't it make so much sense? I think that's why they did it. That's why, they didn't have to reassign to a body because it's still there. But then, like even in the Victorian age, they used hair. So, and I have some kind of, I don't know where it came from, this belief, I think. I don't know. No, I think it comes. Somebody scienced this and said, I don't know enough to know it fully, so it feels more like a belief.
Sure. No, yeah.
That you can remove any part of the brain and still have memories. I mean, you get a lobotomy, somebody stirs up your brain matter. You won't want to express them, but they're still there, and somebody once theorized somehow that it's in your cells.
Yeah.
Mitochondria, DNA storage.
Well, clearly that's a thing. Because, that's the only way you can pass stuff on from generation to generation. So there has to be some sort of storage system. How else would a giraffe know how to walk immediately? It's in there somewhere. And it's funny whenever, because that goes to, amateur science. And when, I was talking about earlier, where you learn about something and it expands and so on and so forth. Like when they first started studying DNA, they're like, yeah, there's like there's like
junk.
20 things and everything else is junk.
Yep.
Nothing else means anything. It clearly has something. We just don't know what it is or how to access it or
how to activate it.
yeah.
A lot of stuff was dormant, but it wasn't junk. That's
Well,
for sure.
That got me thinking because, like I said, I was watching about, and we've talked about pyramids and stuff, and how, you're 5,000 miles away from another civilization, and they are building similar things.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly locked in there somewhere, even if it's not
It's
the
that
thought of the
monkey.
pyramid. It's the urge for that mathematical way or symmetry or whatever that's just ingrained in us.
Right. That, like seeing faces in rocks.
Well, like we like straight lines and
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, I love it. Whenever, like, look at my crap here. I get my tape measure out and I'm like, I want that to be a straight line. And it gives me great joy when something lines up, when I hang stuff or whatever. So it's ingrained to give you some sort of satisfaction to do that. So that would make sense, even if the actual blueprint for these pyramids wasn't ingrained in our DNA somewhere, that the process or the end conclusion is the same. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not an inorganic shape either, because crystals form in that sort of way.
Yeah. When we observe nature and all that, but
Mm-hmm.
that stuff's ingrained in nature too.
Yeah, it's all math.
Yeah.
So, consider that we are living in that mathematical equation universe.
Mhm.
This is just how we see that math in its equated self.
It's very possible.
This is math manifest.
I'd all be self-deprecating math. I'm like, I'm only 2 plus 2. Oh.
You got some kind of squiggly Z in there too somewhere.
I want to be algebra. Just
Oh man.
imagine just depressed mathematical universe.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Did you stumble upon the Mediocrity Principle?
Mm-mm.
Oh my.
What is this?
So
And me?
there's
It was just me, a picture of me,
Yeah.
Mr.
No.
Mediocre.
And I had just watched this amazing Brene Brown snippet where she talks about midlife and people like not being in crisis, but understanding like you're halfway to dead. Time to start having a life.
I think about that often.
Time to start taking off the armor and like
Yeah, that's actually helped me.
giving yourself what you've been protecting yourself from.
It's helped me greatly recently. Unsheathing. I'm like, oh, in best case scenario, I'm halfway there.
Mhm.
Fuck.
Oh, brand new. Yep. Best case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So the principle of mediocrity, the key, and this is a quote from Alexander Valenkin. Valenkin. The key point is that the number of distinct states in which any region can be is finite. See, it's hard. It was hard for like I got this down and I was like, what the fuck? Why did I even want to write this?
Say it again.
No, it's a whole paragraph.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even getting into it yet. It's still it's already thrown me off. So the key point is that the number of distinct states in which any region can be is finite. How is this possible? I can, for example, move my chair by 1 centimeter, by a half centimeter, by a quarter centimeter, and so on, and apparently I have an infinite number of possible states right there, because I can move it by an infinite number of possible displacements, which gets smaller and smaller. However, states that are too close to one another cannot be distinguished, even in principle, due to the quantum uncertainty. So quantum mechanics tells us that the number of distinct states in infinite volume is finite. The mediocrity principle, the principle of relativity, or the Copernican principle. And Copernicus, he had this revelation that it wasn't Earth that was the center of the universe; it was the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Or
almost
the
as,
galaxy.
yeah. So I mean, if you're going infinitely smaller, you lose the system that the small pieces build up.
Yeah.
And so that waveform even it's not shrinking, it's changing.
Well, it
You
becomes
aren't even,
unrecognizable the smaller you go.
but you aren't even occupying the same space
Yeah.
anymore. Even though you're still there pushing that fucking chair. Unless you shrink with it, but you can't keep that system
No.
whole. That took me a while to swallow, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, a lot of these little roads we go down fuck me up. I used to be so into this stuff more and more, and then that started freaking me out a little bit. I had to take some space.
Oh,
and I'm
man.
glad we're rehashing it.
Good, welcome back. I'm
Yeah.
fucking in. Like I've
That's all I used to fucking do is sit there and think about this stuff.
yeah.
But then I would always feel smaller and smaller. Then I'm like, fuck.
I feel like
Because then at one point you're like, none of it matters. But then you find out that it means so much more.
oh my, what a gift to be here and alive
Yeah.
and to be experiencing this beautiful living planet
No, it's
in
true.
a universe that is infinitely like expansive and teeming with life.
It really is.
It's incredible to try to wrap your head around. I think it's beautiful.
Well, that's one of my next goals when the world, if it ever comes back to normal or we learn how to live with all this crap. And I'm traveling more.
It's
I
all about
traveled
your
an insane
perspective.
amount when I was young and then just kind of stopped. I want to see more of the world of what we're gifted, and it's easy in our time. It's not like we have to get on a fucking ship for 4 months to go, to see South Africa or whatever. You know what I mean?
I think you should travel interdimensionally and meditate.
Yeah. Well, I would also like to travel here.
Right. As above, so below.
Yeah.
And I feel, and I've meditated and expanded, and I feel like it put it together. Looking through this stuff kind of put a whole nother understanding, I guess, for me on what like my practices produce for me. Because I thought it was nuts for the longest time.
No, yeah.
But now I realize I'm just kind of not more adept, but I don't know. I'm not saying I'm like waking up or I'm enlightened. It's not that. And those words kind of mask or demonize in a lot of people's minds, and that's being misused. That stuff is misused.
Mm-hmm.
Just anyway.
No, it makes sense.
So the expansive meditations, hang on. Because then I've also had those grounding meditations where you're supposed to like breathe a tail into the earth and grow roots and ground yourself like a tree. I've done those, but I felt like I got small. It almost feels like I'm surfing that waveform in all those different, not all those different directions. But it is kind of, I don't know, it is kind of random. Like that, I was meditating when I saw Jesus and felt like I was in Christ consciousness for hours afterwards. It was incredible to have accessed that. And I was using binaural beats. But those you get, and all the videos we've been talking about have kind of reaffirmed and then reaffirmed. Like if you can resonate in the same electrical vibration as the planet, then you can surf that waveform.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about with Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
He felt that he was able to
Just download information.
He thought he was able to get that vibration and pass along energies.
Do calculus in his head.
Yeah.
That math realm. He just had access.
Yeah.
And he didn't bother with like distractions. Like he stayed away from women. And I mean, we already talked about him, but I feel like the monks have it right. Like you have to be able to get a hold of yourself and your emotions and ground yourself and do nothing the art of doing nothing is completely lost on billions of people, which I think was another one of the gifts of this COVID thing, is you had to sit still and like face yourself.
No, I was all right with a lot of that. But orgasms are good.
Orgasms are good.
Yeah, so
They highly manifesting. That's a great manifesting tool.
So I wouldn't want to get rid of all worldly temptation.
Oh no, enjoy it.
Yeah,
No,
that's what I mean.
be
Those
here.
poor monks
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Right. But I think their training was, well, yes. But then you have stuff like DMT or mushrooms or acid. I mean, acid's pretty synthetic, but it still gets you there.
Yeah.
It's brain chemicals. I mean, get smaller and you have waveforms, which is just like soul. It's like that's the math of the soul. It's the mathematical confirmation of soul. Consciousness in a waveform as opposed to a particle, like in your flippin' brain.
Also makes me wonder why so many of us, well, it might be by design, are so easily distracted.
It is. I feel it is by design.
And
they got really good at it with the MK Ultra fucking studies and shit.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
for the masses.
Human nature. You get a flashing light and we're like, oh, fuck. And that's it. Takes us out of everything.
Ding. They got us by the brainstem.
So it does make you a little jealous that these other people, well, if you look at it one way, you're like, oh, they're not experiencing shit, but then they're actually experiencing more than we are, you know?
Like flights into space.
Yeah.
I've done the whole show like not facing the microphone. Dang it. Sorry.
No.
I like this stuff though. I like feeling good about my own mental health and spiritual health.
No, it's good.
It's good.
No, a lot of people are, I forgot what I was going to say. A lot of people really yearn for that, you know?
Do you remember, did you run across Alan Guth? Guth? Guth?
Mm-mm.
So here's this, because we were talking about the models of inflation. And like, and waveforms in the models, like they did the math in a CAD, animated CAD type. So you see, like, if you want to look into this, look at the shape of a waveform. Like they have a planet in the grid of space to show the gravity it dips. The waveform is like a dome, but the bottom almost looks like Pac-Man ghosts, and it's like undulating, and there's no power or pattern to it. But like, say you look at that particle in that expression, you see just the point, and it's measurable and like predictable.
That's pretty intense.
But only from your perspective.
Oh.
And it looks different to I fucking love that shit. I love it. And it makes sense.
Well,
So you can be standing next to somebody and see the same exact thing and describe it completely differently, having experienced a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's nuts. Then makes it a little harder to study, right? As far as I see this and you see that, then how do we come to a consensus? You know what I mean?
It's like ethics and logic. I don't know. That's science is what's Degrasse Tyson say, or was it the Cosmos guy, the original? What's his name? How can I not think of
Carl
his name?
Sagan.
Yeah. That whoa, what'd he say?
He said a lot of stuff.
Said a lot of shit. I lost it.
No, what he was great at is taking these things and making people not understand them, but want to study them. You know what I mean? He put the little fire under you.
Yeah, you have to take a little bit and spend some time with it, for sure.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, I like him because he's such a jerk. I talked about him earlier. He was an alpha male.
He's not even an alpha male. He's a fucking jerk.
Well, he's a jerk, but he's like this big brooding, he's like 6'3". He used to wrestle. I mean, that's very out of the ordinary. So, and then he attacked Pluto. He's the biggest person to get rid of Pluto.
Hmm.
He was like, nah, fuck Pluto. And if you think it's a planet, you're a fucking moron. Yeah, that's why I kind of respect him.
Huh.
But he doesn't.
If that's the case, then we should be called a dual planetary system because our moon is way bigger than Mercury. It's way bigger than any dwarf planet. I mean, it's bigger than Mercury.
Yeah. Well, but my
A
point
binary
was,
planetary system. Did I say dual planetary?
Same thing.
Binary. No, there's binary stars.
Yeah.
It's a binary planet.
God, that would suck. To have 2 stars. Never gets dark.
What if one was like a purple star?
Kind of looked like a nightlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Should we end there?
Yeah, that's good. It's on our time drop.
I
That's right on the dot, actually.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I didn't sound like I didn't understand what I was saying, because I feel like I had such a grasp on this stuff. It made me feel like so uplifted and good.
Kept me interested the whole time.
Sweet. Likewise.
If you could keep me interested, then hopefully other people will. Well, thank you for joining us.
I mean, you're interesting, too.
Well, thank you.
Co-host.
We're a couple of co-hosts in this strange universe we're in. Thanks for joining us. Abnormal, Strange, and Weird. Go to aswcast.com for all our stuff. It was nice talking to you tonight.
Get on Instagram, too.
Yeah, I got to get on Instagram. I don't want to be on Instagram.
No, find us on Instagram.
Yeah, okay,
I'm not
good.
talking to you.
Thank God. I was like, I'm no
them.
good at it. Because I would just look at boobs. A lot of boobs.
Shame for all those OnlyFans folks. Anyway, bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Restaurant workers.